Truth is absolute.
Heart.
Exhilarating hearts.
America.
Reawakening America.
Good day, U.S. of A. We're here to affirm truth is absolute, tell stories that accelerate the heart, and reawaken the good people of America. This is Comer and Way. Well, good day, U.S. of A. Welcome back to another episode of Comer and Way. And today, man, we got something good for you. Part of our tagline is stories that exhilarate the heart, and we got a couple of those for you today.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you got, Dave?
So I was reading this book called The Interesting History of Income Tax.
Oh, wow.
Sounds exhilarating, doesn't it?
Ooh.
It was by William Federer, and the book just caught my eye. In here, there's a really kind of a cool story, in my opinion, on just responsibility of taxes and how to use taxes. So,
Okay.
I thought I'd read this story. It's about 5 pages.
Okay.
So,
Well, jump right in.
all right. So, this is about Davy Crockett, actually.
Oh, okay.
Seems like not really a person we know too much about. But Davy Crockett served 3 terms in the U.S. Congress, from 1827 to 31 and 1833 to 35. He died in the Battle of Alamo, Texas. The Life of Colonel David Crockett by Edward Sylvester Ellis in 1884 relates the story of Davy Crockett's congressional speech. Not Yours to Give is the title. In the House of Representatives, a bill was taken up appropriating money for the benefit of a widow of a distinguished naval officer. The Speaker was just about to put up the question when Crockett arose. Mr. Speaker, I have as much respect for the memory of the deceased, as much sympathy for the suffering of the living, as any man in the House. But we must not permit our respect for the dead or our sympathy for part of the living to lead us into the act of injustice to the balance of the living. I will not go into an argument to prove that Congress has not the power to appropriate this money as an act of charity. Every member on this floor knows it. We have the rights as individuals to give as much of our own money as we please in charity. But as members of Congress, we have no right to appropriate a dollar of the public money.
Ooh.
Some eloquent appeals have been made to us upon the ground that it is a debt due to the deceased. Mr. Speaker, the deceased, living long after the close of the war, he was in office to the day of his death, and I have never heard that the government was in arrears of him. Every man in this house knows it's not a debt. We cannot, without the grossest corruption, appropriate this money as a payment of the debt. We have not a semblance of authority to appropriate it as charity. Mr. Speaker, I have said we have the right to give as much money of our own as we please. I am the poorest man on this floor and cannot vote for this bill. But I will give 1 week's pay to the object. And if every member of Congress will do the same, it will be an amount even more than the bill asks.
How many members of Congress will do that today?
No one. He took his seat. Nobody replied. The bill was put on its passage. Instead of passing unanimously, as was generally supposed, but for that speech it received but few votes, and of course was lost. Later, when asked by a friend why he had opposed the appropriation, Crockett gave this explanation. Several years ago, I was one evening standing on the steps of the Capitol with some members of Congress, when our attention was attracted by a great light over Georgetown. It was evidently a large fire. We jumped into a hack and drove over as fast as we could. In spite of all that could be done, many houses were burned and many families made homeless. Some of them had lost all but the clothes they had on. The weather was very cold, and I saw so many children suffering that I felt something ought to be done. The next morning, a bill was introduced appropriating $20,000 for their relief. We put aside all other business and rushed it through as soon as it could be done. The next summer, when it began to be time to think about election, I concluded to take a scout among my district. I had no opposition there, but as the election was some time off, I did not know what might turn up. When riding one day in part of my district in which I was more of a stranger than any other, I saw a man in a field plowing and coming towards the road. I gauged my gait so that I could meet him as he came up. I spoke to the man. He replied politely, but as I thought rather coldly, I began. Well, friend, I'm one of those unfortunate beings called candidates. Yes, I know you. You're Colonel Crockett. I've seen you once before, and I voted for you the last time you were elected. I suppose you are out electioneering now, but you had better not waste your time or mine. I shall not vote for you again. I begged him to tell me what was the matter. Well, Colonel, it's hardly worthwhile to waste time on words upon it. I do not see how it can be mended. But you gave a vote last winter which shows that you either not have the capacity to understand the Constitution or that you are wanting in honesty and firmness to be guided by it. In either case, you are not the man to represent me. But I beg your pardon for expressing it that way. I did not intend to avail myself to the privilege of the constituent to speak plainly to a candidate for the purpose of insulting you or wounding you. I intended only to say that your understanding of the Constitution is very different from mine, and I believe that you to be honest, but an understanding of the Constitution different from mine I cannot overlook, because the Constitution, to be worth anything, must be held sacred and rigidly observed in all its provisions. The man who wields power, misinterprets it, is more dangerous the honest he is. Though I live in the backwoods and seldom go from home, I take the papers from Washington and read every word carefully, all the proceedings of Congress. My papers say you voted for a bill appropriating $20,000 to some sufferers by fire in Georgetown. Is that true? Well, my friend, I may as well own up. You've got me there. But certainly nobody will complain that a great and rich country like ours would give an insignificant sum of $20,000 to relieve its suffering women and children, particularly with full and overflowing treasury. I am sure if you had been there, you would have done the same. It's not the amount, Colonel, that I complain of. It's the principle. In the first place, the government ought to have in the treasury no more than enough for legitimate purposes. But that has nothing with the question. The power of collecting and dispersing money at pleasure is the most dangerous power that can be entrusted to men, particularly under our system of collecting revenue by tariff, and it reaches every man in the country, no matter how poor he may be, and the poorer he is, the more he pays in proportion to his means. What is worse, it presses upon him without his knowledge, where the weight centers. If there's not a man in the United States who can ever guess how much he pays to the government. So you see, while you are contributing to relieve one, you are drawing from thousands who are even worse off than he. If you had the right to give anything, the amount was simply a matter of discretion to you, and you had as much right to give 20 million as 20,000, if you have the right to give it all. And the Constitution neither defines charity nor stipulates the amount. You are at liberty to give any and everything which you may believe or profess to believe is a charity, and any amount you may think proper. You will very easily perceive what a wide door this would open for fraud and corruption and favoritism on the one hand, and for robbing the people on the other. No, Colonel, Congress has no right to give charity. Individual members may give as much of their own money as they please, but they have no right to touch a dollar of the public money for that purpose. If twice as many houses have been burned in this country as in Georgetown, neither you nor any other member of Congress would have thought about appropriating a dollar for our relief. But there's about 240 members of Congress. If they had shown their sympathy for the sufferers by contributing 1 week's pay, it would have made over $13,000. There are plenty of wealthy men around Washington who could have given $20,000 without depriving themselves of even a luxury of life. The congressmen chose to keep their own money, which, if reports be true, some of them spend not very creditably. And people about Washington, no doubt, applaud you for relieving them from necessity of giving what is not yours to give. The people have delegated to Congress by the Constitution the power to do certain things. To do these, it is authorized to collect and pay monies for nothing else. Everything beyond this is usurpation and a violation of the Constitution. You see, Colonel, you have violated the Constitution in what I consider a vital point. It is a precedent fought with danger to the country. When Congress once begins to stretch its power beyond the limits of the Constitution, there is no limit to it, and no security for the people. I have no doubt you acted honestly, but that does not make it any better, and you see I cannot vote for you. I tell you, I felt streaked. I saw if I should have opposition, and this man should go to talking in the district, I should not answer him. And the fact is, I was so fully convinced that he was right, I did not want to. But I must satisfy him, I said to him, well, my friend, you hit the nail on the head when you said I had not the sense to understand the Constitution. I intended to be guided by it, and I thought I had studied it fully. I have heard many speeches in Congress about the power of Congress, but what you have said here at your plow has got more hard, sound sense in it than all the fine speeches I've heard. If I had ever taken a view of it that you have, I would have put my head into the fire before I would have given that vote. And if you will forgive me and vote for me again, if I ever vote for another unconstitutional law, I wish that I may be shot. He laughingly replied, Yes, Colonel, you have sworn to do that once before, but I will trust you again upon one condition. You are convinced that your vote was wrong. Your acknowledgment of it will do more good than beating you for it. As for you, go around the district and tell the people about this vote and that you are satisfied it was wrong. I will not only vote for you, but I will do what I can to keep down opposition and perhaps may exert some little influence in that way.
Wow.
Yeah. To me, the story, it just makes me think, the story shows compassion for one thing. He wanted to help.
Yes.
The people did want to help. Mm-hmm. They had a genuine good desire.
Right.
But he broke his duties and defiled the Constitution.
Yes.
He didn't do his position. And, sometimes good deeds can be good, but sometimes they're not your responsibility, your duty.
The reason why government has gotten so much power is because local churches and communities have not taken care of situations like this.
Yeah.
That's how they've been able to gain so much power, is because we've relinquished our responsibility to our fellow man. What are the two greatest commandments, Dave?
It's to love others as yourself and love God.
Yeah. And you have to love God first. And once you love God first, you automatically will love your fellow man.
Yeah.
So it's up to us in our own local communities to be able to take care of this. People accept these taxes now in the fact that, it's our duty to give our livelihood over.
Yeah.
We put the handcuffs on ourselves.
Yep. And how many times do you see politicians just walking through town to meet the people? Never.
Yeah, you don't.
They're not going to come to the district because they don't want to hear what you have to say.
Right. You see only in presidential elections where they fly around to the major, cities, but they're not walking the streets. They're not actually sitting down at the, local diners and, coffee shops and talking with the people. Basically, they just want people to vote for them without really getting to know them.
And then they're called representatives, and rarely do they actually represent your opinion. You want to go to see them, and they hide in their office.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple interesting points I took from the story, too, is, I think that Colonel Crockett had integrity because he was able to go, oh, I was wrong. What can I do to fix it? And if I do it again, I'm willing to be shot. That's pretty good.
Yeah. You don't find that today.
No, you don't admit anybody. You don't ever hear anybody talking about their
admitting they're wrong. Yeah, admitting that they've, made the bad decision, but they've learned from it and you want to do better.
And actually listen to your constituents.
Yes.
And here's one that really blew my mind. Crockett actually studied the Constitution.
What? No.
Weird.
No,
I
Dave.
had to read that sentence twice the first time. Wow.
And it is so sad because, I would wager a high majority of everybody in every state government and in the federal government have never read the Constitution.
If you want to be an attorney, you have to pass the bar, and I think there's 2 different exams or something. I'm not sure. Why don't they have a Constitution exam if you want to be a politician?
The reason why they don't have that is because then nobody would be able to be in Congress.
That's true. That's very true.
And another fact is, Dave, is that Congress and the people who are there now, they view the Constitution as handcuffs.
Yeah, it's the intent is to be handcuffs.
Yeah. It's supposed to keep government at bay.
Yeah.
And they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
By electing quote-unquote Supreme Court justices that interpret the Constitution in the manner that they see fit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Instead of actually taking it for what it is.
And now with justices, one of the questions they ask is, are you going to judge by precedent versus constitutionally?
Yeah.
Are you going to judge the way we've been judging?
Mm-hmm.
And it's wrong.
It is wrong. That is the reason why we are a constitutional republic. We aren't a democracy because you can sway the masses to vote and do the wrong thing.
Yes.
We are supposed to vote for people who uphold the Constitution because it is that one and only document that holds the government at bay.
Yes. You don't just use it when it's convenient and then disregard it when you want to pass your pet bill.
Yep.
You know, it's okay to make a mistake, but I think you got to own up to it, apologize, and change. And when that farmer said, you know, I'll vote for you again if you go back to your district and you talk about how you did wrong and basically apologize. I mean, Crockett, that's one vote.
Yeah.
He could have lost.
Yeah.
But he was willing to do that.
Yeah.
And it gained him over 1,000 votes.
Mm-hmm. I come up from ranch and farm country, and it's amazing how many farmers get it. And I realized, who was our first president?
Washington.
And what was he?
Farmer?
He was a farmer. Was president, and he wanted to go back to farming.
Wow. He was like, I can't wait to be done presidenting.
You know, we need another farmer in office, I think. You know,
a businessman, then a farmer.
Businessman and a farmer. I think those are two individuals who really get it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially a lot of politicians, like they'll be an attorney for a while or something, and then they'll go into politics. They never actually even own a shovel.
Yeah.
Or a hoe, or ever really work a job.
Exactly.
And so they don't understand the average person, I think.
They see themselves as an enlightened elite.
Mm-hmm.
That they think that their ideal of society should be shoved upon us.
Yeah. And their ideal of society is not based off anything that's been proven.
No.
It's almost like, well, we can't have income inequality. We can't make everybody rich, so let's make everybody equally poor, and that'll be good because everyone's equal. How dumb can you get and still breathe?
Still breathe, yeah. We were never guaranteed an equal outcome.
No.
All men and women were created equal, but that doesn't mean we're going to have an equal lifestyle. Because freedom means that you can shape your future and your destiny any way that you want.
Yeah.
That does not equate across the board.
No.
So that means if you're going to make everybody equal, you have to take away from those who have more to those who don't.
It's called stealing.
It's called theft.
Yeah.
If we did what the government did, we'd never see the light of day again, Dave.
We'd be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's annoying, isn't it?
And that's what taxes do.
That's true. It's interesting in that story, too, is how they use taxes to give out charity, and that's not what the government's supposed to do. And you look at the government we have now, over 40% of our goes to exactly what Crockett voted for.
Mm-hmm.
And now, instead of like $20,000 was a lot of money back then, but think of the amount of money we're just giving away as charity.
Yeah.
It should be the wealth of the people that gives away and helps, and organizations and churches, not the government.
Yeah, because we have relinquished our duty to the poor and to the destitute and to the homeless. Now we've been robbed from, and it's set a precedent now that they can continue to rob from us for the good of the people.
Yeah, and if you say anything about it, you're racist or you hate old people.
Yeah.
And none of that's true, but in that story, the farmer talked about how the government should only have enough in the treasury to do what it needs to do. And
what is the only role of federal government? It is to protect our God-given rights.
Right.
And it's to provide a land of opportunity for us to generate the wealth to where we can be so abundantly rich that we can help people like this.
Yeah. I'd like to get America to be wealthy enough to where individuals or groups or organizations can provide the foreign aid we need. Instead of just dumping money somewhere and hoping it gets to the people, you take the money to the people and then show them how to build their own wealth.
Yes.
And then build another wealthful nation. And then those principles can be taught to other nations. So you're technically discipling nations.
That's exactly right.
That's how we should be. Everybody should try to become wealthy.
Yes. I mean, the more people who can take the reins of freedom, they can shape their own destiny, is you allow them the reward of their own work. They can reap the rewards of their own labor, and they can raise their own families, their own communities up to a level to where they have an abundance.
Yep.
And out of that abundance, you give to those who can't work for themselves.
And since the money's coming into your hands and through your hands only, you'd be more frugal, and you don't have anyone embezzling. It'd be way more efficient for individuals and organizations to do it than going through a government agency.
That's right.
You know, that was a cool story. When I was reading that, I was like, man, this.
But what a great message.
Yeah, I agree.
Man, I tell you, I mean, more people need to hear this story.
Yeah,
I'm glad you told it.
If anybody's interested, they can get that book.
Yes, what's that book again?
The book is called The Interesting History of Income Tax by William Fetterman. And it's a short little book, so it's an easy read.
Right on. So,
Hey guys, that's all we have time for on this episode, so tune in next week for part 2.